Now we go to SomerStat. Page 19. Good evening, Tara.
Good evening again, Madam Chairperson and the Board of Aldermen. Through you, Chair, I would like to highlight the PS account has increased for SomerStat, and that is primarily as a result of the elimination of the furlough, as well as the elimination of a project coordinator position, which was replaced by a part-time ResiStat coordinator position. The project coordinator position was also part-time, and the net result is an increase in hours, approximately 15 additional hours, and that was a result of a Kennedy School student who did a survey of residents in Somerville, asked them about their thoughts on the program, and the survey results showed that 85% of the residents felt more connected to Somerville, City of Somerville, as a result of the ResiStat program. We believe that there's great potential to expand the ResiStat program, and that's why we needed a ResiStat coordinator to replace Stephanie.
Okay, so if we go to personal services on SomerStat on page 21, it represents roughly a $17,000 increase from the previous year, based on those two items that you talked to us about. Any questions on salaries, personal services under SomerStat? Alderman Taylor.
I guess I have a question about the goals of SomerStat.
Oh, okay.
Yep. I see your goals here and your strategies, but I was just wondering, how do you measure, I mean, I know SomerStat's been around for a few years now. How do you measure success of SomerStat?
Through the chair. In the 6th year of the program, as a new director, I actually introduced a new performance methodology that we'll be using in the City of Somerville. We're going to be using performance indicators, which are basically a snapshot of performance at a point in time that allows us to baseline a status of a department and track that performance over time to measure the effectiveness of policies and programs that we have in place. There is a scoring system that I've developed, and we are slowly piloting performance indicators. We've identified them. They're in the budget for approximately 5 departments, and this methodology is actually recognized statewide. My work and previous life in the state honored a 2001 Innovation Award from the Kennedy School of Government for doing this methodology statewide. Currently, 26 states have adopted the model, so I'm trying to introduce it here in Somerville.
Your performance study, can we get a copy of that?
I'm sorry?
Can we get a copy of that?
Absolutely, yes. We have a draft of the methodology, and I'm happy to share the actual report that I developed for the states.
Excuse me, can we get that, say, by next week?
Sure, absolutely. Through the chair, sorry.
Thank you. Alderman Sullivan.
Just to follow up to Alderman Taylor's question, so can you give us an example of what a performance measure would be? Would it be like a park being cleaned or less crime reported in an area? Can you just give us like a concrete example here right now?
Through the chair, I'd be happy to. One of the easier indicators to get to understand is we've developed one for the Office of Sustainability and the Environment for the single stream project that we're implementing. Basically, a performance indicator for baseline would be currently how often a particular ward is recycling prior to the implementation of single stream. What we'll want to know as we develop this program is whether or not single stream was effective in increasing recycling. So we'll get a snapshot before and a snapshot of performance afterwards for that particular ward. And if recycling has gone up, you can then draw a correlation between that performance indicator having an effect on the overall results of recycling.
Alderman Desmond.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Last week I was visiting my mother in Lowell, and she had the TV on, watching the Lowell City Council do their budget hearings. And Somerville and SomerStat must have been mentioned at least 15 times as to how we do it in Somerville. I got to tell you, I was pretty proud when I was listening to that. And they couldn't get the answers, the detailed answers that the councilors were looking for, because they didn't have a methodology like this in place. They had no measurements going on. They didn't have the management by objectives that SomerStat provides. So this is a very important key to Somerville's budget and how we're successful year after year and not having to ravage through the budget. We know where we're going, and we can be precise when we do have to make cuts. So I want to congratulate SomerStat. It's been a success since it started. It's a great tool for no matter who the administrator is of the city, and it should be complimented. It's just doing wonders in the city. Probably doesn't. It's not seen all the time. People don't realize it, but I think we realize it here, especially if we were to go to watch other budget hearings in other cities and what they're going through. Thank you.
Alderman Goretz.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Tara. So I just noticed there are 3 SomerStat senior analysts, and their salaries are sort of dramatically different from each other. And I'm wondering if you can just shed a little light on that for us.
Through the chair, I'd be happy to. It's my understanding that the salaries were based on budgeted positions before those analysts arrived, and also previous salaries. But there is a disparity. I think initially it was varying skill set, but that's something that now, given the economic conditions, there's no, we're sort of at that level despite the skill sets have grown. That's my understanding. This happened 2 years ago, but I'd be happy to look into it further if that doesn't answer your question.
It's just interesting to me they all have the same title. They're all senior analysts, but it's pretty dramatic.
Yes, I believe the one junior analyst, which is Kelsey, she was a junior analyst upon her hire, but had a title change. But because there was no additional increase in funds for her, she just accepted the title change with the hope of increased funds in the future.
Alderman White.
Thank you. Actually, I would ask, just once SomerStat is done, I have a general question to raise to Mr. Bean.
Okay. So are there any further questions on personal services for SomerStat? If not, we'll move to ordinary maintenance. Tara, I see that went up a little bit.
Yes, that was a result of, we are members of a network called StatNet, formerly MassStat, which is just a group of municipalities interested that have SomerStat-like offices. We get together, they're trying to professionalize that network and now are collecting dues. So there is a membership due of $1,000 for that. And if we participate as a lead city, then it's $2,000. We've reduced it for next fiscal year. To recognize the fiscal crisis.
Thank you. Any further questions? Not. Thank you very much. And I'm going to call on Alderman White.
Thank you.
Madam Chair. In the past, when we look at the personal services line item, if you'd see one increase from a preceding year, you would ask, is it, say, for instance, contractual, or has anybody gotten a raise? Now, because of the furlough factor also to take into account, I guess that I would just ask the question, have any non-union employees of the city gotten raises? And if so, if you could provide us with that information, I know to me that would be helpful. This would be non-union in this budget. So in other words, if in this year's budget anticipates giving raises to non-union folks, if we could just, have the identification of who those folks are and what the raise is, I think that would be helpful.
And if I might just add to that, and they remain in the same position at the same level. I mean, obviously, if somebody got but we would still want to know, if somebody got a change in position or a title or something. Actually, a change in title would be interesting too. Right. Yeah, so we should add that as well.
I mean, I'm sure there are some positions where there have been a change in title, very few, but there are. I don't know of any non-union that have received any raises, but we'll double check that.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Alderman White?
And then just going back, because we have the slide presentation on the screen versus the budget book, and in the executive office, this is page 31. This is slide, which is identified as number 31 out of 43. It says the summer jobs program allocation was increased by 15,000 to 100,000. And I'm just looking back in the budget book, I thought in the
said
mayor's
80
office, it was 85,000.
85,000.
So is that screen an error?
Madam
Oh, it is
Chairperson,
100,000.
It's $100,000 is the,
Go back to the budget book then.
It's on page 17. Yep. in
Madam
the
Chair,
budget.
85,000 fiscal 10 budget proposal is to raise that to 100,000 fiscal 11.
100,000.
Okay, got it now, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the next department is